Thank you so much, Shane. It's great to be here.
Hundreds of Beavers. It's a bit of a passion project, I would assume, for all concerned.
Yeah, I mean the movie couldn't have been done with a lot of passion, that's for sure. Um, we were it was Mike, the director Mike Cheslick and I have been working together for a long time, so um we were able to cash in all our favors and rope in a bunch of our friends and family to help us out with this. So it's
Yep.
very passion fueled, you could say that.
So the Ryland and Mike show has been rolling for a while now, and you pretty much hit your peak with this, or is there more to come?
Yeah, I mean, we got another movie in the works right now, but
Oh, yeah.
don't expect it anytime soon, The nice thing about Beavers is that we were allotted a lot of time. I mean, the whole movie took there was like 12 to 13 weeks of shooting over a
Yeah.
couple of winters. So this our next movie hopefully won't take as long as Beavers did, but don't expect it next week.
How many beavers were injured in the making of the film?
There weren't a lot of devastating injuries, unfortunately. There's some. I think the worst beaver-related injury was someone got a concussion, and there was a lot of frozen feet for sure.
Oh,
The thing
yeah.
when you had, those beaver costumes, they were very, very warm out there in the snow, but the feet were not. It was just uh, guys with socks on, and they had their feet in the beaver feet, and a lot of times we'd be walking in snow that was a couple of feet deep, and as soon as you step in that snow, your feet just turn to blocks of ice. So
Yeah.
we did develop a system though where you could put garbage bags around your feet. We call them trash pans.
Yeah.
Would cut down on the snow absorbency into your skin. So I guess that helped a little, but for the most part, yeah, blocks of ice. And then yeah, at some point, I concussed one of the beavers. So
Right. Well, it's being in black and white. I wasn't sure how much of it was real snow and fake snow, but are you telling me it was 100% real snow? You're always out in the elements?
no, I'd say about 80% of it
Yeah.
was, and the rest of the movie was green screen. But a lot of the green screen shooting was actually still done outside of the cabin that we were staying in, just because it was cheap and we're cheap. So we would just put up like like a big green tarp right outside the cabin, and it would still be
Yeah.
like freezing outside, but we'd be doing green screen elements. So it was a really shoddy operation we were running. But yeah, I would say actual footage in the movie was about, I don't know, about 80% in real snow.
Okay. You look like you're a pretty fit bloke anyway, but how fit did you have to be? Did you maintain your fitness throughout because there's so much physical activity?
Yeah, I mean, I've always tried to stay in pretty good shape, and I just kept training while we were shooting the film. So yeah, I just tried to stay in pretty good physical condition to handle um, everything that needed to be done. And a lot of it too was stuff you don't see. So obviously, like, I do a lot of action stuff and stunt stuff, and I have to I have to have a giant hat on my head the whole time with this big bulky costume and the big
Yeah.
snowshoes and stuff like that. But also, everyone just had to be sort of in good physical condition because when you had a crew of guys who would only be like four or five, six guys at a time in the snow, you just had to drag a lot of shit into the woods. You just had to lug a lot of heavy equipment and props and costumes like into the deep woods in the snow and the cold. So a lot of times we would just haul a truckload of stuff into the woods, and
Yeah.
then we'd all be dead tired. And then
Oh,
like, okay, now time to shoot the movie, and we'd all just be exhausted. So It was a lot of physical labor on this shoot.
Well, how did you come up with it? Or was it something that you'd worked together on? I mean, it would have been a tough sell as well to try and get it made theatrically for a start. You've done really well, but the concept, was it just something you wanted to do, like old school comedy?
Yeah, I think it was just Mike and I wanted to challenge ourselves to try to make a basically dialogue-free movie,
Yeah.
which is very different than what we usually do. Usually we have a lot of dialogue in our movie, but we just figured if we have to try to separate ourselves from what everyone else is doing, and no one is trying to make a dialogue-free black and white slapstick winter epic with mascot costumes. So we thought that would separate ourselves from the rest of what was being made. Um, but yeah, I don't know. We thought it up at a bar one day, and it started as a small kernel of an idea, and then it just grew and grew and grew into the giant monstrosity you see today.
Was there much apple cider drunk on set?
There was quite a bit drunk on set.
Oh, good, good.
That was good for morale. Yeah, I don't know. There would be some days where it would be so cold. So I would always have a little Irish whiskey on me all day.
Yeah.
Well, Irish whiskey and Irish coffee. Because yeah, it was so cold, and so yeah, it was just, and then at the end of the day, shooting day, we'd always have like 1,000 beers back at the cabin for the crew of guys. So that was good. And yeah, then we were all just doing a lot of Copenhagen and Grizzly chewing tobacco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, it gives you something to do in the cold. Just have a big like lip of tobacco in and constantly spitting in the snow. So by the time we were done shooting, half the North Woods was brown from our tobacco. So yeah, a lot of whiskey, a lot of beer, a lot of tobacco.
Yeah, that's something I've never done, chewed tobacco, but I've certainly had whiskey and beer. I'd give the tobacco a miss, I think. Okay, so about the 20th minute mark, a girl is introduced, and I really liked to see her, and then the evolvement of the character, because it was just something different. It was an unpredictable movie, but then when she was introduced, and also a pole dancing scene, it was all over the place. Like, were you storyboarding this movie? You knew what was happening, or was it ad libbed? There must have been some of it ad libbed because it just looked too. I guess you were just flowing. The comedy was flowing too much.
I mean, there really wasn't any improvising, really. It was
Okay.
all, yeah, I mean, there's no like formal screenplay. It was all boarded. So Mike just had like 3 binders full of storyboards.
A lot of storyboards. You'd probably be able to make a book out of it.
Oh, totally. Yeah. No, the whole thing is like reading a giant comic, like a huge like omnibus comic or something. But yeah, Mike drew all the pictures, and we were just like took months of like reshuffling all the different photos on a table, or all the different pictures on a table to kind of like figure out how we were going to get all these gags and runners to connect with each other,
Right.
uh, and how all the callbacks would help me in some way, in some Rube Goldbergian, machine. Um, but yeah, I don't like, even like you said, like the actress Olivia Graves in it, like
Yeah.
wasn't she was just my friend who I worked with at a restaurant, and I was like, "Hey, you want to be in our movie?" And she was like, "Sure." But we just worked to her strengths, because one thing she's kind of known for is she's a pole dancer, and so it was like, "Hey, Mike, we should probably like try to incorporate this somehow into the movie." Like really talented at this very specific thing that could be like really funny if we do this right.
Yeah.
Um, so it was like that was such a specific that it was all planned and boarded though. It wasn't like off the cuff, like, oh, let's just get Olivia to dance because she can dance, like it was everything in the movie was very laser guided and thought out. And yeah, I don't know. I think the things that were like quote unquote improvised the most were just a couple of like the stunts or whatever. Like when I sled down the hill and take out a few of the beavers. Like
Yeah,
we didn't you can't really plan on how I'm going to take out the beavers because I'm sledding down a hill.
you
Or
could
like when
tell. Yeah,
yeah, or like when I push the box down the hill, we did that in one take because the box is so damn heavy that Mike was just like, "Okay, Ryland, just try your best on getting that box down the hill." So like when I like fall inside the box a couple times while I'm going, like that whole thing is like, yeah, we needed to do that box gag, but how that looked and worked, I don't know. That was kind of up in the air, but for the most part, the whole movie was very boarded. It was like shooting a cartoon.
yeah, it seemed like that. I mean, the box scene you're talking about, you could kind of tell. I mean, I watched the movie twice, so I was watching carefully. Not that it looked bad or anything, but you could tell it might have been a one shot thing. And reminded me of Benny Hill as well. I don't know if Benny Hill was in on your mind, but he was huge in Australia back in the day. So that was the style of comedy that I was
Yeah.
thinking of. Uh,
Oh, certainly. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, it's not Benny Hill's not as big here, but we certainly have seen Benny Hill, so we knew
yeah,
this movie's full of we're just ripping off a bunch of people. Uh,
why not? I
just
could tell. Let me think. Buster Keaton, maybe Charlie Chaplin. Who else? Jim Carrey.
yeah, I don't know. We have a lot of influences on this movie, and I guess if you put like 40 influences all together, then Hundreds of Beavers is the end result.
Why beavers? Any reason it wasn't? I mean, a lot of the beginning was rabbits, and I'm thinking, where are the beavers? But any reason why it was beavers? Did it just go well because of the woods? I assume.
Yeah, I mean, beavers are just kind of funny animals because, well, first they have a great iconic look with their buck teeth and they have the tails, but they're also just like they're very industrious, and
That's true.
there's something that was kind of funny about them being the ones responsible for the deforestation of every of the woods, and the fact that um, I don't know, like they are always building dams and beaver lodges, and um, they literally can't survive. They have to keep chewing wood, or else their teeth will keep growing
Oh,
out of their
really?
or like die. They have to keep chewing wood. So it's just kind of a funny adversary to have beavers. And this beaver, it's just funny. It's a funny word. It's a funny animal. They chop down trees.
Okay.
It's sort of plugged in with our fur trapping guy. And of course, he's a fur trapper. So beavers at the time of the fur trade, beavers were a big commodity in the fur trade because you trap beavers and then you'd use the beaver pelts to trade and whatnot, and you could be worn for clothing, and they'd send the beaver pelts over to Europe and they'd make them into fancy hats for rich people.
Right.
So there's all this background to it, the fur trade with beavers as well. So it just made them a simple adversary for us. And but yeah, it's true. We don't introduce them like right from the get-go. At first, we
No.
wanted them sort of as this mysterious, dark, looming presence,
Yeah.
because we wanted to show like, especially because we show me early in the movie as sort of this loser, zero, who can't do anything right. So we wanted to show the Beavers as like a very tough adversary at first, and I have to work and get better and better until I start to um, you know, I start to get a little bit better, and then the Beavers aren't quite as adversarial. They're still like it's still a daunting task to take them all on, but
Yeah.
just when you're playing a video game, you start with like nothing and you see some bad guy in the video game and you're like, "Oh God, like how am I ever going to defeat that guy?" But then as you
Yeah.
keep playing the video game, you get better and better, and then it's like, "Oh, I can take this guy on." So it's the same thing with the Beavers.
Yeah, I definitely think your confidence gained throughout the movie. I mean, that's the point as well. Was there any conjecture about, like, comedies are usually short, tight? This one goes for a long time, 147 minutes or around about. Not that that's long, but for this kind of movie, it kind of is in a way. Was there any talk about that, or did you just thought, no, you want to put everything up on screen?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely talk of cutting it down. The problem is though, everything is so, and I mean, Mike was Mike and I mean, Mike was editing the movie and we were like watching the movie back a lot, obviously, and we would just,
Oh yeah,
we'd think to ourselves like, is there anything we can really cut? And we cut out the most we could, like as much air as we could, but honestly, you can't really cut whole chunks of scenes out because everything is so related to one another. There's no scene in the movie or stop on the trap line that doesn't connect with something previous and then doesn't pay off later. So if
right.
you cut something out, then it's like, well, how did we get from point A to point C? Where did point B go? So um,
Okay.
we couldn't cut that much out. And of course, people, yes, by the third act, there's like 3 or 4 action scenes. Yes, we could have cut some action out of the ending. Uh,
Sure.
True, but by the end of the movie, if you're with the movie at that point, I think you really get a kick out of the fact that there is like action scene after action scene after action scene. It grows and grows and grows and grows. It gets bigger and bigger and more absurd. And we just thought we owed it to the audience to just get bigger and bigger and more absurd.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
so yeah, I mean, the movie is a little long, but I think that also pays a little homage to uh it's a mad, 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 mad world in that that's also, I mean, not only do we pay tribute to it with the poster itself, but also
Yes.
the fact that that is like a 3-hour comedy and they just left it all in, so
Yeah. Uh, speaking of posters, I think that's one of the most brilliant marketing things I've ever seen, and you're fully aware of it. I don't know if you're responsible or you're picking it, but everywhere all over the internet, I'm seeing famous movies posters and famous movies being corrupted by beavers, and it's ingenious. I mean, sometimes it's even more ingenious than the film in a way because it's grabbing people's attention. Are you responsible for that, or who's responsible?
yeah, that was our marketing team, who's also in charge of the social media, SRH. They are a Milwaukee-based ad agency, and they help to produce Beavers.
Right.
And usually with a small, usually with a movie, you have to go out and pay a lot of money to get an ad agency to come in and like advertise for your movie. The beauty,
Exactly.
the beauty for SRH is they're already an ad agency, and this is their movie. So we had an ad agency built in to do this, and then yeah, with their internal team, they came up with like, hey, let's just parody a bunch of movie posters with beavers, and people have really loved those. So
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know where if there was any copyright or not, but it's certainly grabbed the attention of
yeah,
many.
we haven't come across any yet, but that's something we've definitely kept in the back of our minds.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're safe. It would have happened by now, I think, anyway. But uh, Uh, reviews. I mean, the consensus from everyone, it seems they think it's hysterical. Has there been any negative reviews that you've come across so far? Or, I mean, you're selling out cinemas in Australia, UK, and wherever else. You're in Japan at the moment, and Japan, they love a good mascot, obviously. You could
They
walk down
do.
the street and they'd follow you into the cinema, I reckon.
That's right.
Yeah, but I mean, everyone's saying how hysterical and brilliant it is, but any negative reviews? Have you heard? Or
Yeah, I mean, there's a handful. I mean, we're big followers of Letterboxd, and I mean, the movie is all over Letterboxd and is super popular on there.
yeah,
And it does have the second highest It's the second highest rated movie of 2024 behind Dune. Um,
That's a huge achievement.
but at the same time, yeah, I mean, it's actually kind of funny because we get all these great reviews on Letterboxd, but then every, once in a while you'll see one that gives it like 1 star or something, and those are always kind of funny to watch or to read, because yeah, it's everyone seems to really like it, but like any movie, not every movie is for everybody.
No,
And so, you might get people to be like, oh, like this is so childish. Like, why is this so popular? I turned it off after 20 minutes. Like, this is so stupid.
yeah.
And yeah, it is stupid. It's like a live action Looney Tunes, but some people, it's not their cup of tea. That's fine. I get it. The movie looks cheap. It is cheap.
Oh, look, I'm really glad that you're open to that because yeah, it's definitely not for everyone. Uh, I think it's clever, and I appreciate the relentless attitude that everyone's got. It's so energetic, and I get it. But I'm in that category. I'm got to admit to you, I struggled to get through it, and I laughed, but I also thought it was too long. And when I saw that four-leaf clover, I made a wish. And I don't want to be horrible, but I wanted it to finish. That was my wish.
It's a long movie. No, that's
uh,
the thing. I mean, the thing is, I mean, that's what makes it such a good theatrical movie.
yeah, true. Groups of people. That is correct.
Yeah, I mean, like we always try to tell people like if you can, and again, we've had a huge theatrical run that's still going in the US and Canada too, which started all right back in January. But we keep it going in cinemas because it really is the place to see it with a big group of people,
Yeah.
um, all laughing together, having some beers. Like that is the way to see it. And I totally understand, like if you see it like alone by yourself, it being like, okay, yeah, I got it. Is this still going? Like this is, come on, like this movie should be like 40 minutes shorter. So I understand that. But
Yeah.
again, we wanted to make like sort of like an epic. I don't know, because again, I think like you said, the logical thing for a movie like this would be like, oh well, yeah, we'll make it like 80 minutes. Don't make it
Yeah.
as long as Indiana Jones. But we're like, but no one else is gonna do that, so let's do it. So
Yeah. No, I appreciated a lot of it, but yeah, thank God for Olivia Graves is all I'll say. Appreciate that. She was lovely.
well, well, I mean, that's the thing too, though, is it's nice to have like the human characters in the movie too, because
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you're with my character an awful lot. So some of my favorite parts in the movie is just when my character goes back to civilization and you see her, you see the merchant character, you see like the master fur trapper. It's nice to like see other characters in this world instead of
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
always seeing me, getting my ass kicked by mascots.
I'll wrap it up in just a few moments. Puppeteers, like those fish, I'm assuming they were puppets. Did you have a creative team that actually designed the beaver style and the rabbits and the fish, or did you and Mike do it?
We had so for the puppets, that was Brandon Kirkham who designed the puppets, and he also was the puppeteer, and he's worked now for quite a while as the main puppet guy on The Lion King on Broadway, actually.
Okay,
And the mascot costumes themselves we ordered from shopmascotusa.com, based in China. And we just ordered them from them, and we asked them about, you know, the only thing is we modified the beaver head a little bit uh to have 2 buck teeth, and we made the head a little wider, so we modified it a little
okay,
bit. But for the most part, it was just like the mascots they had available, and we talked to them about like IP rights, like we're gonna use this like we're gonna use these in like a commercial film. uh, and we're gonna like sell the movie. Like, is that okay? And being from China, they're like, what the hell are IP rights?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So
yeah, right.
yeah.
And the music also, like I could see Beavers the musical happening at some point, but was that, I'm assuming that was all put in at the end through the editing process, because the editing is something else I noticed that was quite amazing. Like it wouldn't have been an easy movie to edit and get right because you've got to hit your marks. But the music, was that something you had in mind as again from the start, or did you get a composer in at the end?
Yeah, we always had different music in mind. I mean, a big part of it was the DeWolf Library, uh, which was an old German company. Now I think they're just based in New York, but we used them for our first feature, Lake Michigan Monster, and then we went
Yeah,
back to them for this one. So we used a lot of tracks from them. Um, and then also our buddy Chris Ryan did like 9 different orchestrations. And he's really amazing. He's worked on a lot of big TV shows and movies.
right.
And then also, oh, my dad actually composed and performed the opening song that you hear.
That's your dad. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So he did the same. He also composed and wrote a song for Lake Michigan Monster as well. And then everyone liked that song so much that we had him do the opening song for Beavers. So yeah, there was and then the sound designer Bob Barido did all the amazing uh this was like his Sistine Chapel for sound design. So
Yeah.
between Bob's sound design and then all of the music geniuses in this movie really props up the whole shoddy production.
Well, it got me through because I had headphones on watching this, and yeah, I noticed intently the music and little quips and little tiny sound effects and so forth from you and just the beavers themselves. It works on that level for me. I thought it was pretty good. Well done.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that we try to stress is this isn't a silent film. It's just a no
No.
dialogue movie. The movie has so much sound. It needs it. That's what drives the whole movie. So
Now, have you ever been to Australia? We have some pretty bizarre animals down here. You might have hundreds of something from Australia in mind, maybe.
yeah, I mean we I've never been to Australia, but yeah, I mean we would love to do hundreds of koala bears. Uh,
Wow.
we'll do set the whole thing in the outback. That would actually be great. To shoot a sequel that's not in 6 feet of snow. That would
Yeah.
be it'd be nice to have some warm weather for a
Oh,
sequel.
you will totally opposite because it'll be dry as a bone, sunny, and yeah, you've got snakes and kangaroos and koalas and all sorts of deadly animals to deal with. I surf. I'm a surfer, so sharks are a big thing down under as well. But maybe working in water would be a little bit too difficult for an independent film.
Yeah, never say never. We've we've worked with water before. For Lake Michigan Monster, we worked on the water. So we've
Right.
never worked with a live shark before though. So that would be interesting. I would still, but I would say we probably still would need me to wear my iconic raccoon costume though. So I don't know. I might first take of me in that costume in the water, I might just drown and production would end. So
Well, any final words like on why should people, if they were contemplating going to see it and tossing up, why, in your own words, should people watch like Hundreds of Beavers, either at the local cinema or when it's streaming eventually, if they see this then?
yeah, it's just a movie. It's just a lot of fun to see a movie with a group of people, a movie that you can kind of just turn your brain off for. And go back to uh, what it was feeling as like a kid watching a movie, just a silly movie with no sort of political message or it's just a movie for fun that's made for everybody, every walk of life, every age, race, creed, and nation. So if you get a chance, go see it with a group of people at the theater. But if you have to stream it from home or buy the Blu-ray eventually, make sure you do it with a group of friends and a case of beer.
Maybe that was my problem. I was sober. Maybe I needed to have a few beers.
This movie was clearly made by drunks from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, I didn't know whether it was ingenious or tedious. I was tossing that up all the way through, but I love movies like Clue and Problem Child. Those two movies came to mind because they're pratfalls and they're fast paced and people falling over each other and just different unpredictable things happening. But you've touched on a nerve here. A lot of people really love this. So congratulations. It's a feat just to get it out there, obviously. And the response you're getting, I mean, you're in Japan right now. So that's huge for a movie like this.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we're thrilled about it. Yeah, it's best case scenario. We couldn't have asked for anything better from this movie. So we're very happy and very grateful to not only everyone who worked on the movie, but all the fans who have caught beaver fever around the world.